Most of you have this verse on something. A coffee mug, a t-shirt, the lock screen of your phone. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It is the most quoted verse in American Christianity that almost no one reads in context. And here is what makes it strange. Paul did not write it while launching a ministry, planting a church, or winning a victory. He wrote it while sitting in a Roman cell, awaiting a trial that might end with his execution. He is not talking about achievement. He's not talking about goals. He is talking about how a chained man can write a letter full of joy without losing his mind. And that changes everything about what this verse is doing. Now, let me give you the situation. Philippians is a prison letter.
Paul writes from Roman custody, probably around 60 to 62 AD, to the church at Philippi, his first European congregation, the community that has been sending him financial support from the beginning. They have just sent another gift through a man named Epaphroditus, who nearly died getting it to Paul. And the Philippians are not asking Paul a theological question. They are asking the only question that matters when someone you love is in chains. How are you not destroyed by this? That is the question the whole letter answers. Chapter 1 reframes Paul's imprisonment as gospel advance. Chapter 2 gives the Christ hymn, the pattern of humiliation leading to exaltation, as the template for every believer's life. Chapter 3 warns against self-sourced sufficiency, and Paul throws his own pedigree in the trash. Chapter 4 operationalizes everything that came before. Stand firm. Rejoice. Pray instead of being anxious. Think on what is excellent. And then, verses 11 through 13, Paul's personal testimony. He says, I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In every circumstance, I have been initiated into the secret of being full and going hungry, of having plenty and being in need. I am strong enough for all of it, through the one who is empowering me. Verse 13 is the hinge of the entire letter. It is the sentence that names the mechanism. Without it, chapters 1 through 3 teach you what to imitate, but never tell you how. Without it, the roof falls in. Now, let me take you into the Greek, because this is where the popular reading collapses. 5 words. 5 decisions the Greek makes for you that English obscures. First, the verb. English translations almost universally say, I can do all things. The Greek verb is ɩσχύω, not dynamai. And that difference matters enormously. Dynamai is the verb of capacity. I am able to accomplish. ɩσχύω comes from ischus, muscular strength, and it carries the sense of stamina, the capacity to bear weight, to withstand pressure, to remain under a load without breaking. You find it in Mark 14:37, where the disciples cannot ɩσχύω, cannot stay awake, cannot hold up under the weight of the moment. You find it in Luke 13:24, where people strive to enter through the narrow door. The verb is ɩσχύω, endurance language. Paul did not write, I can accomplish all things. He wrote, I am strong enough to bear all things. If he had used dynamai, the prosperity reading would be grammatically available. He did not.
The verb he chose is the verb of load-bearing, not output. Second, panta, all things. In Greek, the scope of panta is always determined by context. In Acts 2:44, it means all their possessions. In 1 Corinthians 13:7, it means all relational conditions. Here in Philippians 4:13, the antecedent is explicit. It is verse 12. Paul has just listed the conditions: tapanuthai, to be brought low, and parasaven, to abound. Hortazisthai, to be filled, and pinon, to go hungry. Parasaven again, and eusteristhai, to be in need. Panta points backwards at that list. It does not point outwards toward an unspecified field of ambition. The popular reading treats panta as a blank check. Grammatically and contextually, it is a bounded list of material and social conditions.
The claim is stability across that list, not permission across whatever you want. Third, the participle. To ἐνδυναμοῦντί me. To ἐνδυναμοῦντί me. The one empowering me. The root here is dynamis, and Paul's usage is remarkably consistent across his letters. Dynamis is always God's force breaking into a situation through a person. It is never a resource deposited into the person's account. Romans 1:16. The gospel is the dynamis of God for salvation. 1 Corinthians 2:4-5. Paul's speech was in demonstration of the Spirit and of dynamis, so that faith would rest not on human wisdom, but on God's dynamis. 2 Corinthians 12:9. My power is made perfect in weakness. Dynamis shows up where the person has nothing left to contribute. And here is the critical thing about the participle. It is present tense, active voice, continuous aspect. ἐνδυναμοῦντί. The one presently, continuously empowering me. Not the one who empowered me once. Not the one who will empower me later. The one who is doing it right now. As Paul writes the sentence, in the cell. If this were an aorist participle, it would describe a past event Paul draws on like a memory. The present participle means the strengthening is happening in real time. Fourth, the preposition. Dia, with the accusative. English says through, but dia is not with help from. It is the preposition of medium and channel, the way current runs through a wire, the way water flows through a pipe. Christ is not the assistant standing next to Paul offering encouragement. Christ is the medium through which Paul's stability exists at all. You cannot separate the endurance from Christ's presence and keep the endurance. The presence is not a resource Paul borrows and walks away with. It is the ongoing condition of his functioning. And fifth, back up one verse. In 4:11, Paul uses the word aŭtarkes, and this is where the philosophical fireworks start. Aŭtarkes is a Stoic term. It is a hapax in Paul's letters. He uses it nowhere else. Autarkeia was the central Stoic virtue, self-sufficiency achieved through training your moral choice to assent only to things within your control. Epictetus taught this, Seneca taught this, the whole Roman philosophical tradition held this up as the highest achievement of the examined life. And Paul borrows the word. He uses it in verse 11. I have learned to be autarkes. And then in verse 13, he immediately evacuates its content. He relocates the source of that sufficiency from the self to Christ. The sufficiency is not auto. It is not self-generated at all. It is Christologically sourced. Conversational, warm, scholarly, like a friend over coffee. Paul is engaging the best philosophical option his audience has and breaking it. He says, yes, I have what the Stoics are after, but I did not get it the way the Stoics get it. I got it through union with a crucified and risen person who is operating through me right now. Epictetus would recognize verse 11 and flinch at verse 13. One more note on the Greek before I move on. The word order. In Greek, Paul writes πάντα ἰσχύω. Πάντα ἰσχύω. All things I am strong enough for. The emphasis falls on πάντα, not on the I. English reverses this. The Greek texture is less assertion, more astonishment. All of it, even this cell, even this hunger, even this verdict I am waiting on, all of it I am strong enough to bear. The sentence reads almost like a confession of wonder at what union with Christ has made bearable. So, what is the unified argument? What is the verse doing? Here is the claim, and it is more radical than the motivational version people have been carrying around. Paul is relocating the source of human stability. He is taking it out of circumstances and placing it in union with the crucified and risen Christ.
The Philippians are caught in a contradiction their cultural framework cannot resolve. They hold two convictions simultaneously. Conviction 1, we are in Christ. We have been adopted, justified, sealed. Our apostle taught us this, and we believe it. Conviction 2, our circumstances are deteriorating. Paul is in chains. Some of us have lost patronage. Our civic standing in this Roman colony is eroding. Our apostle may be executed. Under the framework they inherited, from Roman honor culture, from imperial civic religion, from the ambient assumption that divine favor produces comfortable circumstances, these two convictions cannot coexist. If the gospel is true, why are things getting worse? If things are getting worse, maybe the gospel isn't what Paul said. Paul refuses the dilemma. He does not promise their circumstances will improve. He does not concede that deterioration means disfavor. He breaks the framework entirely. Union with Christ is the constant. Circumstances are the variable. Stability lives with the constant, not the variable. And the evidence is his own body, chained, hungry, awaiting trial, writing with joy. This verse is not a promise that life will be easier for believers. It is a declaration that the measurement system you have been using to gauge whether God is present, your comfort, your success, your favorable circumstances, that measurement system is broken. Throw it out. Christ's empowering presence is the only stability that holds when the measuring stick snaps. And notice, the present tense matters pastorally, not just grammatically. The Philippians do not have to wait for deliverance to access this. The mechanism runs inside the undelivered present. Paul is not writing from the other side of suffering, telling them it was worth it. He is writing from inside suffering, telling them it is working right now. So let me name two false applications and two true ones. False application number 1. I can achieve anything if my faith is strong enough. You've heard this 1,000 times. People print this verse on athletic jerseys.
They quote it at business launches. They attach it to promotions and acceptance letters and weight loss goals. And every time, they are making 4 lexical substitutions they do not know they are making. They are reading ɩσχύω as dunamai. They are reading panta past its antecedent. They are hearing dia as with help from. And they are treating dunamis as a reservoir they withdraw from. 4 errors, compounded, producing a verse Paul did not write. The pastoral cost is enormous, because when the goal is not reached, the believer concludes their faith was insufficient. But the verse was never about goals. It was about conditions. The faith was not insufficient. The reading was. False application number 2. If I am still struggling, something is wrong with my faith. This is the shame version. People read the verse as evidence that mature faith produces frictionless endurance, and then they pile guilt on top of legitimate pain. But Paul is in prison while writing this. Whatever the verse promises, it does not promise the absence of struggle. It promises unbrokenness inside struggle. 2 Corinthians 12:9 makes the logic explicit. Dynamis en asthenia telete. Power is perfected in weakness. Struggle is the room the mechanism runs in, not the evidence it is absent. True application number 1. Stop sourcing your stability in your circumstances. Here is the operational test. Name the thing in your life that, if resolved, would make you feel okay. The diagnosis, the financial pressure, the relational fracture, the career dead end. Name it. That thing, that is where you are sourcing your stability. And Paul's verse is a direct challenge to that sourcing. Not because the circumstance does not matter, it does, but because you have made its resolution the condition of your peace. And that is precisely the framework Paul is demolishing from inside a Roman cell. Tomorrow morning, before you open your email,
Name out loud the one circumstance you are waiting to resolve before you feel steady. Then say this: my stability is not sourced there. And then do one thing today you have been postponing until that circumstance improves. Make the call, send the message, keep the appointment, have the conversation. Refuse to let the unresolved situation be the reason you do not move. True application number 2. Reframe contentment as structural stability, not positive feelings. Ottercase is not a feeling. It is a load-bearing condition, the structural absence of fracture. You are not failing this verse when you do not feel warm about your situation.
Conversational, warm, scholarly, like a friend over coffee. You are failing this verse when your identity cracks apart inside it. The aim is not cheerful resignation. The aim is unbrokenness. Tomorrow morning, identify one limitation you have been fighting, a timeline you cannot accelerate, an outcome you cannot control, a person you cannot change. Stop trying to manufacture gratitude about it. Instead, make one decision today that is only possible if Christ's stability, not your preferred outcome, is the anchor. Keep the commitment, pray the prayer, do the work. Let the refusal to fracture be the form your faith takes, regardless of what you feel about the limitation. Here is the load-bearing claim of Philippians 4:13, as close to one sentence as I can make it.
A man in chains, facing execution, reports that he is presently, continuously held stable across every condition of human life, not by the strength of his own judgment, not by the resolution of his circumstances, but through ongoing union with the crucified and risen Christ, who is empowering him in real time. That is not a motivational slogan. That is a testimony about where stability lives when everything else is gone. If this kind of work matters to you, going back to the Greek, reading the verse in its context, letting the text challenge the reading you brought to it, subscribe. We do this every day. And if you want the full written exegesis plus the daily audio delivered to your inbox, head to exegesisdaily.com. We will see you tomorrow.